but like kind of like a bullet hole or something in the middle of these of one of these cards and be like, hey, it's still a 9, right? Like,
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Win and In podcast, episode 22. Again, I am joined with my co-host, Mr. Gabe Hohenstein and Jonathan Wyatt. Today, we have a lot to talk about. It has been about 2 weeks since our last episode, and we have a lot to get into. The thing that has happened and has this morning, actually, because the event was so long, it had to go into the next day. But this morning, on Sunday, April 16th, the Battle Hardened Richmond results have finished, and we're going to jump right into that. Oldham won, Pat Eschke. I don't know. Anyways,
yeah, the last name was tricky, huh?
Yeah, it's a little tricky on that one, Eschke. I want to put the L in. I don't know why. Anyways, he won on Oldham, rocking the sledge in the mirror. It was an Oldham mirror in the finals. Sledge was, or both sledges were swung a total of 43 times. So a pretty standard Oldham mirror matchup. And yeah, was it a fatigue Oldham per se? We haven't got the list out yet. We'll kind of see which is what, but it seems like one Oldham ran a Van Brace, the other one ran more sets of D-Reacts, but they seem pretty on par and similar. So I don't know, boys. Like, what do we think? What do we think of Oldham taking the meta? Is that surprising?
Sounds like the same song, different dance.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we had 7 different heroes in the top 8, and yet Oldham still kind of took it, which is like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny hearing like people call for bans because it's like kind of just a joke at this point. It's still too early.
He's been banned enough. You can't even ban him anymore. You can't even.
Yeah, it's really wild, but I thought there was a lot to like kind of go over in the Battle Hardened. So like, yeah, I'll stick with the top 8 for now.
To get into.
Yeah, like really cool that Oldham was able to take it. I heard that there were 2 different versions of him, like one that was kind of more of like mid-range is what I was told, and then the other one was like more of a heal. So of course we'll see more when we get the VOD. I heard there was like a lot of issues there just with like service and you know, just getting internet. So unfortunate, but it seems like Mansant was able to you know,
I think he did the best he could.
Yeah, not take a complete loss on the day, and you know, make with what he had. So,
yeah. Also, I'm sure just a large amount of support. Like even like Fabry was trying to get someone to help him out and like compensate that person. So this community really tried to rally together. Couldn't quite get it done, but we're going to get the videos. The videos were recorded, just not being live streamed. So we will still be able to see the matchups, which will be huge, especially in the top 8. Maybe not the Oldham mirror, unless you just kind of want to see that. That one kind of looks pretty standard, I'd imagine. But, you know, a lot of, like you said, there was 7 different heroes. Oldham was the only repeat hero in the top 8. You know, we got Alexi, who went first place into the top 8.
Crazy.
And then we have an Azalea who made a return to top 8 with Brody Spurlock piloting it once again. And then a Dash, which kind of just seems to be on theme at this point to have one Dash in the top 8 of every event. A Dromai finally made it to top 8.
Converted.
Being the most represented hero in this Battle Hardened, made it to top 8. And then Bravo, and once again, an Azuri's. Maybe Azuri is a little bit like the Dash as well. We kind of expect to see one.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
What's your thoughts, Gabe?
Oh, yeah.
I was just so stoked Azuri made it again, because you know that means there's something viable, something could be working with that hero, and then also just Dromai was crazy to see that make top 8. You know, finally for once, it like showed its legs.
Yeah. A lot of Dromai stands out there have been singing her praises and really believing. And, you know, I'm very curious what this list looks like. I imagine we'll get the list in a couple of days.
I mean, even made top 4.
But it sounds like it was very, like, dragon heavy, dragon-centric. Cool. So running the big dragons in this list.
Nice. Blake would be stoked.
All right.
Yeah.
What's the
I thought like
yeah?
the
Go
top
for it.
8, it was like really good news for Dash players, Dash mains, because it seems like her being represented, like, if you really wanted to stay on that hero, you could do so and be pretty confident into any major tournament, which is a really nice feeling to have. So I think the
Yeah.
loyalists there really appreciate that, and then like Dromai as well, that kind of finally getting that conversion. And then I was a little surprised to see how many Dromai were present.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it would be like the number 1 represented hero. I thought it'd be kind of up there, but my goodness.
This is the second big tournament. The Chicago 5K was also very Drumai heavy in the field. So second big tournament where she's the most played hero in that tournament. So through numbers alone, she was like pretty bound to get to the top 8. Um, but yeah, definitely interesting list. And then as you're saying with the dash, there's so many different dash versions. It seems like, again, don't have the list in front of us, but it seems like this dash was a more like typical boost type dash. A lot of talk about tree frog dash was going around. And or even like wombat dash could have even been a thing, but it seems to be this is pretty your standard dash deck. Something that similar to what we saw at the Calling Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. One deck I do want to talk about, because most of these decks are pretty similar to kind of how you would expect them. At this point, we kind of it should be known the force that Azalea brings, and how she can just present so much damage with relevant on hits. Uzuri deck will be very interested to see if we're seeing a very similar Uzuri deck as Sam Dando's, just because she has a lot of maneuverability as far as deck building.
Mm-hmm.
But one hero really stood out as a totally different deck than what we've seen back in Calling Auckland when Digital Dixon was running the list. This Lexi does not fuse. This Lexi is a very arrow-centric. She got some of the new arrows like Infecting Shot. She got Codex Frailty. She is just shooting off as many arrows as possible. What you guys think on that?
I was surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure it was bound to happen at some point, given like the codexes kind of helping,
Mm-hmm.
kind of even out those bad arrows, and Voltaire just does such a good job of giving you options along those arrows,
Voltaire's very strong.
whether it's a Bolton shot or something else, right? So I think there's a lot of value in the deck, which makes it interesting. And like there are also, what is it, like Lace with Blood Rot is just
Yeah.
a really strong on hit, and if it does hit, the value of that card skyrockets. Also,
Yeah.
like there are other really good cards that Lexi has, like heck, you're running 3 of a kind. Like I'm not sure.
She runs that card great.
I get that it's like a no fuse deck, and
Mhm.
you may not be running any fused arrows or anything like that, but you could still run something like Arctic Incarceration, which like is
She's
kind of,
still privy to that.
yeah, it's a game or it's a turn ender for a lot of aggro
Mm-hmm.
heroes. So like I don't know, I feel like the deck has a lot of interesting spice. I wasn't expecting it, so like really happy to see it, and also that someone like Matt McGinnis was playing it. So yeah, really interesting to see.
We have a video on our YouTube channel called like the new Oldham deck, and like on the thumbnails, like players hate this deck, right?
Oh yeah.
Maybe we need to do a video about this deck, because this Lexi deck destroys the Fatigue Oldham decks.
Players love this deck.
Yeah, so maybe players love this deck, or Oldham hates this deck, or something like that. But yeah, like this deck was taking Oldham's all day.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew McGinnis is the one that piloted it. His tweet the night before was, "Please give me Oldham's every matchup." And how many people thought that he was playing Lexi tweeting that? It's a big shout out, but he's right. It's a deck that I played as Fatigue Oldham. just kind of give it some test runs, and I ran into this deck, and I was kind of stunned that this deck actually, got damage through. I think it shoots about 2.5 arrows every turn.
Jeez, that's a lot of arrows.
Yeah. Typically Lexi, she has like some offhands, right? Because she's like, has Channel Lake Frigids and stuff like that. So she has a fuse every now and then. No, this one doesn't care. This one just goes. So.
Yeah, Eric, I'm kind of curious because like, I wasn't kind of seeing Lexi on the radar that much, and like I know the No Fuse kind of was the big name of this last tournament, but Lexi also had like a decent representation. Do you think that like there was a general audience that knew of this No Fuse Lexi, or do you think it was more circumstantial? What are your thoughts?
I do think that. So I was starting to see this deck make its round of Talishar, which once it hits Talishar, you start to understand that, okay, a lot of people know this deck, right? This deck is like, at public knowledge at some level. However, I don't know if everyone was convinced on it, because when I got beat with this deck, I was like, okay, I gotta build it. Let's try it out. And what I found is that like some of the matchups where you might feel better into, like maybe like Ice Lexi likes Katsu. Well, this Lexi might actually struggle into Katsu. Was my personal experience that this deck can struggle into decks that maybe Ice Lexi has actually a better matchup. Kind of like Azalea. Azalea is kind of a 50-50 when you're Ice Lexi. But Brody was able to beat Matthew in the first rounds of top 8, and it's because when Lexi isn't presenting like Frostbites to Azalea can just do Red and Ledger and kind of just shut it off. So I think, probably assuming, we got people play testing and whatnot, probably about half was No Fuse and the other half was probably more traditional.
Interesting. Yeah, love that. But like as an aggro player, like I find it kind of interesting that there's a anti-fatigue aggro deck available now
that shoots arrows.
Yeah, so I think
would never thought of.
Yeah, the options are kind of opened up now, I think, as an aggro player. Did you have any thoughts towards that, Gabe?
So not towards the aggro player side of it. I was just more looking forward to that Lexi's finally bringing up to the ranks like Oldham and Briar have been. Like pushing, like those Tales of Aria heroes are crazy, and so she might be finally getting her light, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, she wins by collateral. With Azalea getting new arrows, she in tune gets new arrows. So,
and she's has so many powerful. Like even Voltaire, like that card is broken beyond belief. So,
and cool. I want to talk about maybe one of the things that maybe really helped her out, because if you look at this top 8, she is the aggro deck, and she's not Lightning Lexi, right? So like most times you see Lexi as like a mid-range deck. It's very much not an aggro meta anymore. There's no Fies, there's not even a Briar in the top 8, and there's not a Katsu either. She is as aggro as it gets, and I think it's because of the meta that Lexi is having a good time right now.
Yeah, one of the, like, other than like banning Oldham, which is like a terrible conversation piece, I think, right?
Well, it's something we should do, but yeah.
We're kind of over
Starvo didn't get banned, Oldham's not getting banned, all right?
yeah, right. But like one of the things that I've heard now is that like, Ranger is kind of putting down aggro. Right?
It's like the gatekeeper.
Yeah, right. And like, while I would have loved to see Lexi like actually convert past the first round, but it's Azalea, it was like a dog eat dog situation, right? Where Ranger kept another Ranger down. So like, like I'm really curious to see how many more people will like kind of show up with this Lexi deck, and how many Rangers will kind of be fighting for power at this next Pro Tour or the Calling.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, because my original thought was when Outsiders first came out and Azalea testing was going underway, Azalea was like by far the best Ranger, just because she did so much. The meta adjusted to her. We're starting to see the rise of, I'm sure we're going to get these Oldham lists and they're going to have a little bit more Earth cards in them. There's been adjustments made, And now Azalea is not by far the best ranger. Now there is an argument to be made on Lexi versus Azalea. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see two camps develop. We're no longer going to have just one ranger. So it's pretty exciting in that. All right, let's get into. So that was the top 8. We had a Dromai beat the Bravo to lose to Oldham, and then oh boy, let me go get this tweet up here. We had a Oldham beat Missouri, which is a tough matchup for Missouri. So, and then Brody with Azalea beat Matthew with Lexi, and then lost to an Oldham, which again, it's a tough matchup for Azalea. Oldham is in a very good spot. That's not really new news. He's been in a good spot for as soon as things kind of slowed down with Briar. He's been in a very good spot. Even when Briar was very fast, he could have got really slow. But anyhow, as soon as Prism left, that's really what it is.
Like Prism was the
that's what it was.
There was a piece of news that I kind of caught on to that I'd just like to talk about for a second here. You know, the Battle Hardened, there were 91 people that showed up, so there were several rounds that took place. You know, it was quite a large tournament. But you know, once they moved to the top 8, they could really only accomplish 2 rounds because those 2 rounds took 4 hours just to get through. So those Oldhams actually had to play in the next day. So it wasn't because the Oldhams took long that the the Battle Hardened was delayed past a single day. So all I can say there is, if you know, you know.
You know, I thought about bringing that up, and I like how you did it. If you know, you know. I think that's really where it's at this point. Literally. And at some point, I keep saying this every time it happens. At some point, it's got to be talked about, right? It's got to be talked about.
Yeah, Oldham's not the problem. There's a specific player.
I don't know. I just every time I see it, it's like, yeah, it's funny how I mean. But then I think about the player across from. So and I think about it's taxing when you're going against someone who is taking so long. And I don't think it should, but if you know, you know. I think we'll just leave it there because I want to try to stay a little bit positive.
Oh yeah.
Today. So yeah. But you're right. 92 players actually. So you're off by 1, but whatever. Don't forget about the 1 Bolton that showed up.
Shoot, that was my problem. My bad. Thank you.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. But the numbers reflect pretty well what we got in the top 8. So it seems like people know the meta, understand the meta. There was no rise, to top 8 that's took everyone by surprise. We have 15 Dromai players, 14 Lexi players, 11 Oldhams, 8 Azaleas, 8 Bravos, 8 Uzuris, and 6 Dashes. So pretty good conversion rate for Oldham and Dash. Everyone else, obviously, good to get to top 8. But yeah, it's funny how the top 8 heroes or the top 7 heroes are the same top 7 heroes we saw at top 8. So the meta is pretty solved, I think, but it's pretty understood at this point, which is good because going into Pro Tour here in a couple weeks, you kind of want to have your footing on something that you can really follow by. Had a Phi or a Kano or I don't know, a Reinar went to top 8, then the gears are grinding all over again, and you're really trying to figure out, okay, am I going to have to worry? Is more people going to be on this new deck and all the other stuff? Nope. Everything is exactly where it's predicted to be.
Yeah, nothing super oppressive. One kind of last thought here. Icelander. Didn't see an Icelander in the top 8. I get that, the best pilot wasn't there. But was Icelander even close to the top 8?
It's hard to say. There's only 2 Icelanders in this event. Or 2 or 4. It might be 4, but 2. Okay. So it would have been a very hard, just numbers wise, for an Icelander to make top 8. I think it takes a very skilled player at this point to pilot Icelander. But you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we see one. I mean, obviously Hamilton's going to be at the Pro Tour, so it really wouldn't surprise me if we see one top 8. It always feels like you should see at this point an Icelander and a Briar, like a Briar that's just been on a heater, making top 8.
Somebody
You know,
Briar.
Yeah. Look, Hamilton's got to come in, get Icelander her quarterly points, right?
right, right, yeah.
It's like an accounting thing for him, you know. It's just
yeah. That's his paycheck, you know. Man, yeah. So, you know, that might be something more to expect, but I think what we're seeing here is going to be pretty reflective on what we're going to see at the Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more next week, the podcast we do right before.
Exciting.
So, all right. So let's talk about other stuff that went on this week. A lot of new articles came out. These are pretty big in y'all part of the woods. You know, I'm not so much of a collector, but I know both you guys like the shiny cards. So let's talk about it. It was Collectors Week. Jonathan, I'll lead it up to you. Is there a point that you want to talk about first?
I mean, there were a lot of really good articles. You know, we weren't short on any excitement this week. So I think the thing that I kind of like to start with are the gold foils.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's
get with the 10K bricks of cash that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So
go for it.
Yeah, kind of like the biggest news was that you know, we already knew that the gold foil tunics, there were 50 in print just over the lifetime of that run, and they're not going to print anymore. But then, kind of in a surprise, they added in the legendary gold foils. They've limited those print runs to 40 each, and then for any common gold foil, they limited those to 100 each. I don't remember the exact number for Majestic, but it's somewhere in between, right?
60. Yep.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's oh my goodness. And those numbers are tiny.
I was so surprised.
They are extremely tiny. Just in like a numbers game, so we had 100 people at this Battle Hardened. We had the last calling had over 400 people. And these are just people that are showing up to this one event. I gotta imagine that there are thousands of players in the U.S. alone, you know, even more across the world. When you look at all the players that compete in any sort of sense, whether it's a pro tour or at a calling, they are shockingly very low printed.
Yeah, I never thought they'd be that rare. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I thought it was like 200s.
Yeah.
Like not.
Well, with all the pro quests every other month, there's like, oh, there's a lot of them, no big deal, and then you're like, wow, like
you would see a lot on sale, and I think kind of the price was kind of
it was going down,
like because the prices, you know, fluctuated depending on what card it was, but you saw some as low as like 200.
Yeah,
and because of that, it kind of gave you the sense of there's a good amount out there. But now looking at the numbers, I gotta wonder. We have, you know, the Pro Tour next year. We'll have some gold foils. You know, there's all these other events that have gold foils. Even if you get like a no rune robe, I gotta wonder if that price goes up a little bit.
Dude, like that's what I'm saying, man. Is like the bone vizier and like that coat of frost. Those aren't getting laughing emojis anymore. Like those are actually like rare cards.
Yeah,
and then got a Code of Frost early on.
Yeah, they may not be super playable, but they're rare, right? And
they're rare.
And there's a special printing, so like that does mean a lot.
They're rare in the sense that there's not a lot, I should say.
Well, yeah,
common,
right.
But yeah.
And like those legendaries, they were going for like some of them were going for as low as like 1K, and like now they're like people are offering minimum like 3K for them. So it's like it's crazy now. Like what is it, Ghostly Touch?
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure that was like one of the cheapest legendary.
Yeah, it was.
And like
I think it actually went. What was it, under 1K? I think it was like 800 at some point, right?
Probably.
I fear that that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now that this is out, it's like, yeah, whoever bought that is just
so stoked.
Insane.
I have a quick story for this.
Mhm.
So I had a gold foil heart of ice that I won, and I went ahead and got it graded.
Mhm.
It came back as like a 9, and I went ahead and sold it to a vendor, and I got 1,500 plus a cold foil heart of ice. I felt pretty good with that trade. Um, at the time, like that was great for me, and I went to like this was at Road to Nationals. I went to the Worlds. I saw it in the case. He was selling it for like 1,200.
Mhm. I
So I was
remember
like,
seeing that.
yeah. So I was like, all right. So I kind of got him on that, and
Winner.
yeah. So I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. But I kind of felt a little bad. I was like, yeah, he took a loss on that one. But if he still has it, now I'm sure he could sell it for a little bit more, right? Like maybe even 1,700, 2,000. Who knows? I don't know.
I bet 2,000 easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how the winds change so quickly with these announcements. So like,
Truly, though, truly. I mean, and I honestly, I just want to say that I think it's really cool that we are getting this information. Um, I maybe some wanted it sooner, maybe some didn't even want it at all. But I personally like that we are getting the information to kind of just like put it out there and say and be transparent with it.
No, I agree. It makes them just feel that much more special, and it'll make competing that much more like sought
It
out.
feels like there's a relationship between like the collector and the
Mhm.
buyer or whatnot and LSS.
yeah, I mean, like I myself, I'm excited that this news is out, but I will say that there is like a little bit of a bittersweet moment here because like for me, I'm not like the top collector by any means. Maybe some people
Mhm.
might think otherwise, but I've got some legendary cold foils, and then I was able to get some of these common gold foils, but I was holding off on the legendary, thinking I could wait a little bit. And like while my common gold foils have gone up in value, incrementally with this announcement, I fear that I may never be able to get a gold foil legendary now in my collection ever.
All right, all
Just
right. Here's a
win
quick
one.
question. Yeah, that's my question here. What do you think are you sooner to win one or are you sooner to buy one?
Well, you know the answer to that.
Oh, you
Win? No,
never
I'm
know.
just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I was assuming.
No, but
Yeah. I've had 3 gold foils in my fab lifetime
2
now,
legendaries.
and I've sold them all. And yeah, after seeing this, I was like, probably should have kept on to one of them.
yeah, hindsight always changes a little bit of information, but I think like
Yeah.
given the time and all that kind of stuff, I feel like the deals that you made were good considering, and I thought you actually hit the higher end of those deals as well.
All of them, I think, end up working out. And so I'm honestly, I have no seller's remorse, honestly.
Good.
That's good.
Um,
That's good.
all right, let's move on to the print run. This was another big article. I think one of the things that I heard the most in the sphere of Flesh and Blood
Mhm.
was how people didn't realize how short printed. I don't know if you want to say that, but Crucible.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, those
I was-
boxes have been going up like crazy the last week or two. I don't know if you guys have noticed that at
Mhm.
all.
Oh yeah. I've been mainly paying attention to Arknight Shard because I sold mine before the announcement.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
That's a thing.
speak about seller's remorse. Let's cover that real quick. Oh
We'll
goodness.
give you a hug.
Yeah, Crucible War biggest set I think as far as like a low printing, and then I think the Black Label HP1 was
Yeah, I
also
was
kind of
surprised
like
with that.
yeah, that's also an underprinted set. Outside of that, I feel like a lot of people are they're talking about Welcome to Wraith, they're talking about Arcane Rising, but like for me, like the next best thing after those two items is Monarch First Edition.
I 100% agree. There's so low numbers on that comparatively to the sets that follow.
Yeah, because everything else doubles what Monarch First Edition did, and like we're still waiting on Unlimited Monarch. Unlimited Everfest, and of course the ultimate
Mhm.
meme, or yeah,
Yeah.
That was-
area, and then the ultimate meme, Everfest, like, right?
Everfest.
Because
Yep.
like, of
Yep.
course they put this asterisk, and
They
they
did.
say yet to be released. Like, come on.
Yep. Everfest Unlimited still potentially on the
Whoop,
way.
whoop.
Yeah. So I want to cover that. Well, actually, let's just cover it now. I do wanna ask. Like, do you think that, is it too late? Is it just a meme at this point? Is it
It's
better
gotta
served
be too late.
as like what, kindling or like fire right at this point?
I
Is that
mean, probably, right? Like, I think there's still, you can still get an Everfest box for a reasonable
You
price.
could get cases for $200 on Facebook all day.
Right. And on top of that, like, it's actually becoming like a pretty good box to get. The
Mhm.
Majestics are very good value. The Legendaries not so much, but the Majestics are. Um, it's just like, it's the need for unlimited Everfest isn't there. I guess maybe you could wait until the need is there to release those boxes. I'm assuming they're made. If they're not, just give it up.
yeah?
Just give it up.
Dude, some marketing genius is like kind of thinking out in like their closeted room or whatever, and they're like, "All right, how do we get this unlimited into the streets? Do we wait 20 years and we just sit on this product?"
Uh-huh. All right, I got something here. Maybe I'll I'm not gonna get too negative, but maybe I'll do a little beef here because with Monarch and Tales of Aria,
Mhm.
you had it where there was the first edition, and then a few months after the Unlimited would come out. Unlimited being the cheaper version, more accessible to the more casual players, or the just creating a supply for a demand. Well, let's say you're the type that's like, I don't care about cold foils. I don't care about first editions. I just want to play the game.
Mhm.
I'm gonna wait for Everfest Unlimited to come out because it was assumed it was coming out. There was like talks on it and everything. There's like really nothing to believe that it wouldn't come out
Yeah.
until time passed and it just wasn't coming out. So maybe there's like a sense of where LSS feels like they can't say that they're never gonna take it out because they don't want to, say like, oh yeah, we messed up there or
Mhm.
something. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
LS is pretty good about owning their own mistakes when there's a mistake, especially with the surgical issue. I feel like if they came to that conclusion, they'd make an article about it, like heartfelt.
Yeah, it's just now is not the time, obviously,
not.
but
Probably
yeah,
not.
I'm curious when that's gonna happen or like how that's gonna unfold, because like that seems to be kind of like that conversation that keeps on getting moved back, it seems. But kind of wanting to go back to the Monarch side of things, just real
Yeah,
quick.
Mhm.
definitely.
Like the library, I think maybe uh an interestingly priced card right
Me
now as
too.
far as a collector is concerned, but just because like I think out of all the sets it's the one that has the next best value that
Mhm.
people aren't moving
Right.
towards yet. But I
That's
think people
true.
are going for that low hanging fruit, going towards the first three fables, and I think that makes sense too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's more iconic, but the library is our first landmark at the same time, though. And as you're saying, like, the low, and it's not low if you look at it compared to the first three sets. It's actually
Mhm.
very high as far as the print rate for the first three sets. But if you compare it to Aria, Everfest, and I gotta imagine Uprising and Outsiders, and even Dynasty having like around 200,000 or even 300,000 boxes out there, um, then yeah, Monarch at 125,000 is really low.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think it's kind of, I remember with Magic, you had your alpha and your beta, and those prices, if you got them early, you just sat on them because they just eventually went up. And then through time, Unlimited started going up because it was the next set.
Mhm.
And then now we're even seeing Revise going up, which is like, Unlimited and Revise were supposed to be bad sets, but because they're old, they're starting to go up. I feel like that's where we're going to get with Monarch, and then through more time, maybe even into Tales of Aria and Everfest.
Yeah, I think that's another interesting point, is that like we see the numbers for Tales of Aria, they're not double, but they're getting close to that.
It's like they're over 200,000. So.
Yeah, but I'm not even scared of those numbers. I know that there was like quite a bit of fear mongering kind of earlier on when that set released about like, oh, these numbers are insane. But like looking at them now, especially with Welcome to Wraith, Unlimited to kind of back into that as well, I feel really confident with the first edition numbers going into this. I know that Unlimited will be a bit of a struggle yet to be announced, obviously. However, that was the whole point of changing Fab 2.0. So like, I really don't think I can walk away with any of these numbers looking at it from a negative perspective. If anything, all I'm looking at is the opportunity in the sets with the numbers that we have. So I think the game is strong. I think these numbers are great, and I think this is awesome. I think this is great.
These numbers are indicative of growth, and it looks good and it feels good. That being said, get your Crucible boxes, get your Monarch First Edition boxes, and then get your History Pack boxes. One little thing I actually did want to talk about is that the first History Pack is still in print. I didn't know that. I for some reason, like not the black border, but just like the regular. For some reason, I thought that was out of print, but it's still in print. So that was like one thing I kind of got. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense though, because like technically, I guess all the history packs can never be out of print. Based on the policy.
I didn't really think about it, and it didn't really occur to me, and I kind of just because like I stopped seeing it sold, and so I was like, oh, it must be out of print. But yeah.
And the History Pack 2 Black Label, is that just the Blitz decks, or is that
I think that's the European decks.
Oh,
I don't know. When I think of Black Label, I'm thinking like the black border.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. That was the only question mark for me.
Which those are so hard to get. Like the only time I've ever seen it was at like LA Battle Hardened, and this is like a week after it came out, and it's sometimes at the calling, but they're always sold out on the first day because they're just that hard to get, and people want them because that's where you get the full art foil heroes, which is really cool.
Man, those have not been on my radar. Goodness, it sounds like
those
are
yeah. If anything, if you want to talk about jump, I imagine they gotta be jumping up because there's just so few boxes out there. Okay, let's talk about the last piece of news. I mean, they came out with 5 articles. One's a flex article, so if you want to go see how you can flex out your Emperor deck, go read that one. The other article, it's just talking about why to collect, and if you ever thought about collecting in this game or in any game, I think that one's a pretty good one. I think we're gonna just kind of skip it because we all kind of agree with it. You know, we're all like, yeah, collect what you love. That's good. That's perfect. The last one that they came out with is the grading system, which I want to kind of go over because I know we got some different opinions here. But we also have some different backgrounds. I've only graded my, like I mentioned earlier, the Heart of Ice, and that was because I was planning on selling it, so I was hoping that the grade would kind of give it the extra value. But now what we have is every gold foil that you're going to get. So this is before I had the Heart of Ice, but now every gold foil you get is a PCG graded to be a 9+ gold foil. It is not officially graded, but it is. If you were sent them the card to PCG, you would expect to get a 9+ on it, maybe even a 10, depending. But the big question is, this article talks about PCG a lot. It does cover just going like over basic grading cards with the why do you collect, but is PCG the company that is basically connected to the hip with LSS? Is this what we like? How do we feel about this? How do we feel about PCG in general? I'm gonna start with you, Gabe.
I don't know. Don't get me wrong, it's a great grading company. Matt Rogers is a cool guy, but I think it should be its own independent company and not so tied to the hip with a trading card game, because that's how biases are created. And quid pro quo, like them adding that 9 plus on all the cards. I just don't. That doesn't feel real. That just feels fake.
So, let me hear what you have to say as well, Jonathan. But I do have a retort to that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I've got a retort to everything. I feel like I've played all sides of the aisle on this one because
Okay.
I love the collecting side of things, right? I think
Mhm.
it's a really interesting point, right? I like PCG as a company.
Okay.
I think their business model is great. It seems that when they put these cards under scrutiny for grading, it seems that the grades that they're releasing, at least now with their revised grading system, I think has been proven to be a great track record. Of course, they know that being tied to the hip with Flesh and Blood, that's going to be a challenge into breaking into other card games, right? So
Mhm.
That's
that seems
absolutely
to be
fair.
kind of the biggest point, is that it's like, while you can get certain cards graded through PCG, I do, for myself, just for grading in general, I would rather go to BGS just because they're more accepted in other card games as well,
Mhm.
outside of just Flesh and Blood. However, there's no issue with grading a PCG card, right? I think most people feel that while there is a bit of a premium for the same exact grade in a BGS, it is not that much higher these days. So I think that is great for PCG, and
Definitely.
again, like a testament to how good their business model is working. I didn't like the guaranteed, or not guaranteed, the 9+ grade that they attached to the gold foils. I thought that was a bit inappropriate. Uh, However, I still think the company is, a 9 out of 10, right?
Mhm.
So I think they have good stewardship, and I think that their testing processes, and they bring those forward, and they measure those so that they can be scrutinized as well. So I think they're a good company in general, but I still lean towards BGS.
I honestly, I think you said it all right there. I mean, that's kind of what I was going to relay as well. Is that I think especially when the grade, like when you get a gold foil nowadays, like it shows it right then and there.
Mhm.
Like this is 9 plus, and this is verified by PCG. So it's almost like an advertisement, right there at your gold foil. But like at the same time, it's good to know that you have a good gold foil. Like it's good to know that it's been under an eye to make sure it's a
So,
high grade.
has it been under an eye, or do they just slap that on there and call it good? Like, does
So
someone
they
I
individually
got
go
it.
through one?
So what they did was, originally these gold foils were sealed in individual sleeves,
Mhm.
right? Through the producer, and then
Yep.
they were folded, put it into a top loader, right? So
Mhm.
what PCG did was they took those out of the top loaders, took them
Oh,
out of
okay.
their sealed cases, and then pre-graded them to only the 9 pluses, right?
Okay, so I guess I
So
didn't read the article, so that might have helped. But yeah.
yeah, and like one of those interesting things is, like, while the grade is like kind of a 9 plus,
Mhm.
cards do get damaged in transit, so it's not necessarily a guarantee, right? It's like, hey,
That's fair.
if the card was in the condition, that same condition as what we sealed it in,
Mhm.
then yes, it would be a 9 plus, right? However, service condition damages do happen in transit, and I think of the Emperor that came in the mail for me. He was assassinated, but like kind of like a bullet hole or something in the middle of these of one of these cards,
We
and be like, hey, it's still a 9, right? Like
should definitely have an image of that. If you send Gabe an image so we can post that up on the video.
oh, unfortunately, I did have to get rid of it, but yeah, it came with like the biggest
I'm
gaping hole
sure
I've
we
ever
can
seen.
find it in the Sneep Discord. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I think there might be a saved photo, so I'll search through my
Yeah.
phone. But yeah, it was sad, rip. But yeah, I think the grades and everything, I think it's great for the game, and I like seeing the collector side of things being talked about here. So
Mhm.
I think that this has been like one of the best weeks for like articles in general.
A lot came out this week
Yeah.
for that. Yeah,
So
definitely.
I just like to say I retract my statement because I misunderstood how the grading thing went with the PCG. So you've
Well, you
convinced
know
me.
what, Gabe? Like, um, that is totally cool and all, but like I don't think you're alone in that. I think there is a lot of assumptions made.
Yeah, I just assume so that that makes a lot more sense if they individually go through the mod. I figured it was just like a sticker they throw on and call it.
Oh,
Right.
well, you're not allowed to change your mind. That's not this kind
Yes,
of
sir.
podcast.
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean,
On
I think it's good that you came out with that with
Mhm.
that ignorance. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's bliss, right?
Yeah. So, but like, because I think a lot of people will, kind of assume that
Mhm.
or kind of have that same kind of like thoughts on this company. So I'm glad we could kind of talk it out and figure it out. But yeah, just my closing thoughts on it is that like, I absolutely agree with you, Jonathan. I think it's totally good in the sense of if it's a flesh and blood card, PCG is a great grading company for it. I also think it's going to be hard for them to expand out of flesh and blood. I know that they are trying. I saw one Twitter post with the whole like magic, the one ring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea that they had that they were going to, sponsor whoever got that card to come down to New Zealand, do a tour, and host them for 2 days and then get their card graded. I think that's good. I think we could possibly see them grow from this, but right now it's definitely a flesh and blood thing. We'll see how it goes going forward. Okay, so that's what's been going on, and then finally, I think the last thing that we can kind of go over, because I kind of want to save all the Pro Tour meta talk for the next weekend, right beforehand. So, but let's go over what's been going on these last 2 weeks, and even next week we have is the skirmish season. I did a couple skirmish. Gabe, I know you did one. Jonathan, it's been your busy season, so I don't believe you had any. Am I right on that? Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I've done a sealed into a draft. I think draft is a great format for this set. I'm quite enjoying it. It feels heads and toes over Uprising. I think I still prefer Tails. I think I'm starting to do enough drafts to kind of figure out where I rank it as far as the drafts. But I think it's very good. I very much like it. I think I have it like above Monarch. Sealed, not a huge fan of. I'm gonna be honest. It seems like Uzuri Pile or Benji, and unless you just get like the God deck for Katsu, so it's a little boring in that aspect, I think. But that's been my experience. Yours was what was your skirmish?
Mine, it was sealed to draft.
Okay.
And no, I felt underwhelmed with my sealed pool for sure. I went 4-1 into it. It was an Arachne, just go wide. But I was either going to go without a Riptide. Like, I didn't feel strong in Tithe Suit, and I just think tempoing out a couple other decks that just floundered around got me there. But the draft felt great. Draft was sweet. Like, I was able to stay open until like pack 2, and it felt really nice.
I am doing some big time headway or head work into even getting to the minute details of this draft, because I find it so interesting. I find it so worthwhile. So yeah, a lot of praises. I did a Blitz skirmish. I know that they came out with a Blitz article saying that Icelander was having her good numbers. She was pretty damn good in the last Blitz, so it kind of is just transferring over. We haven't got any new heroes. In our finals, we had a Uzuri versus a Briar. So we had a chance to get a new hero up against some points. But we did get an old hero to get new points. Do you guys know what I speak of?
I can't think of it.
Oh boy!
In
All
Blitz?
right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Imagine you sit across. It's the skirmish. It's the freaking finals. Yep, it's the finals. And let's say you're playing. I don't know, Icelander. I don't know what the finals matchup was, by the way. And you sit across. Your opponent flips their hero over, and it's Data Doll.
You're like, that's silly. They only got 3 intellect. How are they gonna win?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Data Doll has got her first points in Blitz.
Awesome.
I think I
Everyone-
saw that article
I
on the
forgot
fan
about that.
page, was it? Or yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
They mentioned it on the article. Yeah, it's everyone's gonna want to know that list.
Oh yeah.
At this point,
You can sell that for
Yeah.
gold.
They haven't came out with any new lists yet. Let me double check that, but because I was like hungry for some Blitz lists, but yeah, no new Blitz lists yet. But a Data Doll getting first, you gotta imagine. I'm guessing they're gonna keep this until after Skirmish season, but you gotta imagine that would be like one of the
Holy cow.
most clicked on links.
I hope you
Oh,
own a
man.
cold foil data doll.
I could just think of like the game going through, right? It's like, all right, I'm gonna attack, boost, an item,
Yeah.
hit. All right, I'm gonna attack again, boost, an item, hit, and then just like the
Yeah.
disbelief.
Oh, is
of,
that
like,
a microprocessor? Oh,
yeah, it's just like
Let's put that out.
Yeah, I'm curious what the list is. Really happy to see, a hero achieve, some legend points. So I'm sure that local town was very ecstatic.
Oh yeah, oh for sure. So,
Oh, that's
but that's kind of all we know. Like, there hasn't been a lot of like graphics as far as like pie charts or anything like that. So we don't really have a lot to talk about. I can just talk about my own personal experiences and but it's kind of all we got for right now. So hopefully, and I think they're doing that on purpose. I think they're trying to make it the most even playing field. So I don't think they're releasing deck lists, and I don't think they're releasing like, what heroes are being played and sealed or drafted the most or anything like that. I'm sure after next weekend, we'll get something out there, and then we'll kind of have an idea of what happened. But yeah. All right, so yeah, it's been an eventful 2 weeks. Like I said, next week we'll come out with another podcast so that we can get you guys a podcast right before the Pro Tour. We'll talk about the meta, and we'll really break it down. We've been, as a team Sneep, we've been going over quite a bit, really planning to, be on par with what to expect, and we'll kind of share a little bit of that with you guys. So stay tuned for that one. Other than that, is there anything else we missed that we want to talk about?
I can't think of
Nothing
anything.
for me.
Feel pretty good.
All right, well, cool. All right, well, thank you again, Mr. Gabe Holstein and Jonathan Wyatt, and thank you for the listeners out there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, keep on fabbing.